Deborah Madrigal, our principal, but she's not here right at this moment. She'll be here right soon. We have our assistant principals. Let's see, Kenny Knoop is here with us, Matt Chambers, Robin Anders. Is Miriam here yet?
Haven't seen her.
Okay, I'll announce her when she gets here. A couple of board members, Roberta Reynolds. Roberta, where are you? There's Roberta. Thank you. And then we have Charlene Tabbitt. Where's Charlene? Not here yet? Okay. We have Principal Luther, if you guys say it correctly, because I can't just call him Oscar anymore, it's Dr. Macias. We have, Director of Secondary Education, Dr. John Paramo. We have the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Assessment, Sharon Caseo. And as any other guests come through, I might make some more announcements a little later. At this point, I'm going to have Coach Garrison wants us to announce a couple of special guests.
John Rome, we have a couple of special guests here. John Rome from Benville College. We have John Scudo. We have Jim Sartoris. He's going to be one of our speakers. We have Dos Remedios, former head football coach at John Burroughs High School. And then we have Don Foster. You can stand, Don Foster? There he is. 1948, 1950 graduate. I believe he's the third ASB president in our school. Thanks for being here.
I haven't told Don this, but I like to affectionately call him, he's the original equipment from John Burroughs High School. Our first inductee tonight, and is going to have a few people speak about it, is going to be Keith Knoop. Come on up, Keith. I had the privilege of meeting Keith many years ago, and he's been an outstanding coach here at John Burroughs High School. I worked with him every morning this last 2 weeks. Putting this together, and it's such a special favor for me to be involved with having Keith inducted. The most exciting thing is to see how Keith decided this year not to be the head coach. He's a very involved assistant coach, and he smiles every day now. He's happy. He doesn't have to make those big decisions. He's such a much happier young man, so I'm very happy to see that. Although I'm sorry that he left as head coach, but he's in a better place now, I think, and his stress level's gone way down. The first person I'm going to have speak for Coach Knoop will be Marty Garrison.
I had to write this stuff. I had it memorized, but I don't think I could look up, so I'm going to keep it looking down. I really love this guy. If there was ever a Hall of Fame mother, though, it would be Keith's mother, Margie. If we could induct her into our Hall of Fame, I'm sure we would do it tomorrow. Margie not only raised two great kids, but also raised two of them to be Hall of Fame members. Karen Knoop was inducted in 2006, and now Keith is being inducted tonight. I am sure Kitty will also be a Hall of Fame member very soon. I have known this wonderful family for over 40 years, and now I have the honor to induct Keith into the 2016 Hall of Fame. Keith actually played football for me at Burbank High, where it was very apparent that he was something special. Keith went on to play football at Benville College and earned a scholarship to San Jose State. On graduating from San Jose State, Keith began his coaching career, and what a career it was. Keith spent the last 19 years of his career as our football coach at John Burroughs, amazing 103 wins. His teams won 5 Pacific League championships. He was voted Pacific Coach of the Year 3 times. It is my honor to now induct Keith Knoop into the John Burroughs Hall of Fame. Give it support.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and say a few words about Keith. We are so fortunate to be able to get Keith to come to Glendale College and play a couple of years. He reminds me how good he was, and I looked up his stats. Obviously, he's one of our team leaders. We had a tremendous defense in the years he was with us, 81 and 82. He led our defense, 68 tackles in his sophomore year, all conference, all state, 8 sacks, two forced fumbles. So as I looked this up, I realized you were pretty good. You were pretty good. And it was no surprise that he moved on to San Jose State, had a great career there, and we were fortunate to get him back, and he coached 5 years with us. And during those 5 years, we had outstanding defenses. He was our defensive line coach, went to a couple of bowl games. So it's no surprise how well he did once he got here to Burroughs and to follow his career. One other thing, we had an opportunity in 1989 to take a group of our alumni players. Keith, Dose, I think you were with us. We went to Hong Kong and played an exhibition football game. And it was a great experience. I can't tell you about all the things that happened there because I would embarrass Keith. So he's been attached to Glendale College in a lot of different ways, and we always say, once a back, always a back, and he'll always be part of us. But we're so proud of you, Keith, and the great career you've had, the great accomplishments as a coach, and we know that you're still coaching, and he loves to coach, and he doesn't have to worry about all the other stuff as a head coach. So congratulations. I'm glad
Please.
All right, thank you for this opportunity. I want to start out by talking about how lucky I am. It was mentioned I have a brother and a sister. Both of my siblings are in the Hall of Fame here. They both created this path of success for me that was just easy to follow. I just get on some coattails and just follow. Keith is, I'm not gonna lie, I might cry. But we're gonna try to avoid that. So if I just break off some jokes, that's why. For years, I've had this quote about Keith that if you know him, it makes sense, and I'm going to share it. It's treat a person as he is, and he will remain as he is. Treat that person as he could be, and he will become what he should be. Jimmy Johnson, NFL coach. We're both Dolphin fans, even though it's hard to admit. But reading books through certain people and the Jimmy Johnson stuff always kind of jumped out because his quotes are good. When you talk about Keith or success, you want to talk about supports. Everybody in this room knows Keith. Everybody in this room has supported Keith in some way. But everybody knows that his number one support is Julie. Julie, with Julie, round of applause for Julie. With Julie, he has found a wife that supports him. He's able to search for his passion and go for his calling. He's able to be in this great game. The best part about Julie is she's his balance. When the ball doesn't bounce his way, she keeps her distance and stays apart. But when there's time to celebrate, she's the first one to run down the bleachers, jump over a fence, sprint across the field, and celebrate with him. So that balance is always super important. Everybody that's coached football knows that to be a successful coach, you need a patient wife, a loyal dog, and a good quarterback. Not necessarily in that order, but that's the recipe for success. I use humor. Humor always brings people together. Anybody that's ever spent time in a coaching office after a football game has had their share of humor, making fun of referees and making fun of other coaches and ourselves and the players in some capacity. I'm pretty sure that lasting the 16 seasons coaching was most of that had to do with the humor that I learned to get through the hard times, bring together the good times. When Marty asked me to speak on his behalf, I was very excited. It was an automatic yes. I actually took the phone call and went right to my recorder and pretty much talked my whole speech into it on the way home. And I had to cut out about 36 minutes because there's just so much to talk about. the reason I'm excited to do this, one reason was because he's such a great person. Second was I get to roast him a little bit. He is the biggest, strongest, fastest man, smartest man I've ever met in my entire life. But he's the same man that surprises at football banquets when he does talk about mom and how great she is. Someone once said to me a long time ago that in education, your leadership skills are only as good as the people you have around you. So I did become his boss so he can continue to make me look good at all chances I have. Couple stories. If you don't know Keith, he's known to stand his ground when he believes in something. And he believes in football, he believes in hard work. There was one day we were practicing at Luther because of the construction, and there was a father there that was upset over playing time for whatever reason, and he came out on the field, and he was all fired up and screaming and yelling, and he said, he was telling Keith that he basically picks favorites, and those are the kids you play. Keith answered back with, "You're right, I do pick favorites. They're the ones that show up on time, come early, work hard. I'm going to go one step further and call them starters." So it's a little story. One time in my life, I've seen Keith speechless. I couldn't tell you who we were coaching. I don't remember who it was, but Keith was all over the sideline referee. He was next to us and our guy, and he was doing his best to ignore Keith, and Keith was yelling at bad calls, no calls, crazy calls, and Keith was yelling and yelling and yelling. And right about in the middle of the fourth quarter, during a transition of a play, the referee walked over to Keith and took Keith's play sheet from him. So Keith was like, "What are you doing?" The referee turned to Keith and said, "Well, you've been reffing all night. It's about time I called a play, coach." Yes. But realistically, all in all, if you know Keith, you know that this is more than a game. It is definitely a way of life. If you ever think about true passion for this game, you think of Keith Knoop. Keith Knoop has gained every ounce of respect that he gets. He was respected by everybody, friends, enemies, teammates, and rivals. If you've never experienced coaching with Keith or in the locker room as a player during the halftime adjustments, this will kind of explain it from the book Friday Night Lights. This is one chapter that they start off with. Football, it's like the gladiators. It's once how it was described to me. It's like the Christians and the Lions, like Caesar standing up there saying yay or nay. There's 19,000 fans in the stands and they cannot do what you're doing. They are all cheering for one thing. They're cheering for you. And man, that is no drug or no booze or no woman can give you that feeling. That's kind of how he coaches. That's how he lives it. That's how he has his passion. Keith has been my brother, he's been my father, he's been my friend, he's been my coach, he's been my teacher, he's been my mentor, he's been my colleague, and he's definitely my hero. He never had children of his own, but instead he's taken on the challenge of raising other people's children within this game. I was just the lucky one that was able to have him for more than a coach. He has coached boys that through him have grown up to be now husbands and fathers. They've served in war, they've worked on Wall Street, they're police officers, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're coaches, they are educators, and my success is definitely influenced by him. This is more than an induction speech. This is more than a vote of confidence. This is a thank you on behalf of every young man you've influenced. I made it.
Yeah, I originally had about 45 minutes written down, and they told me I could do 3 and 10. I'm going to get a stopwatch here. If I can make my phone work here. You got it, Marty? Okay, first off, I want to say welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming to this year's Hall of Fame. I'm incredibly honored to be here. And in all my years of coaching and all the banquets that I've given, I want to show you the very first speech I've ever written. I am an improv, off-the-cuff guy who does it from the heart, and I just felt that I had to, if I was going to get all these years of playing and coaching then I had to kind of write it down. So I'll start from the top. Yeah. One thing when you coach for too long, glasses are a mandatory part of what you do. Back in 1978, I was this really long-haired guy, had hair down to my butt, and I showed up to Burbank High,
and told the coach, Tony Zarillo, so he may remember that name, he's coaching at St. Francis still, that I wanted to play football. And he said, boy, you're going to play football here at Burbank High School, you're going to cut that hair. So I was first to take him back because I had cut that hair a long time. And I went home and told my mom I really want to play. And she took me to the barber and he cut that stuff off. And it was a scary thing doing it. But I really wanted to play. That year was my sophomore year, 1978, and I got to meet guys that were going to be high school friends for a long time, and some of them not so much anymore, but others became my lifelong friends, some of which are here today. I was introduced to coaches like Norm Dahlia, who was a great coach at Paraclete for a while, Steve McGlynn, who actually coached here for me, Coach Ozine, Steve Alamillo, my sophomore year, those guys were all there, and then of course I met Marty Garrison, which I will talk about in just a moment. But that sophomore year was pretty much a blur, and I really didn't understand what football was all about, but I knew I was hooked, and that I had to be part of this sport, and the hair thing became like not even important anymore. But in April of 1979, my life changed drastically in that my father passed away, and my mom, Marjorie, she had the task of raising not only this teenage son who was just barely turned 14, but my sister and my brother, and he was not yet 2 years old. And what a great job she did. Not only did she survive, but I think we did pretty good, huh? Yeah. And realistically, back then I had no idea how much of an influence football was going to play in my life. And the coaches that were going to influence me, and really not only take on the role that my mom was going to play as a father and a mother, but they were going to be my fathers also. And it really started with Marty Garrison. He's the one who kind of kept me interested in football. Matter of fact, a great story I like to tell is that as a junior, we had a lot of seniors my junior year, and I thought it was just etiquette to let the seniors play even if they sucked. I didn't know any better. I just thought that was the rule. And one time about game 4, Garrison goes, you're better than that guy. You don't have to let him play. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, joking voice, I don't remember. And I said, well, I'm going to take his spot then, and I did. And I thought that was one of the coolest things ever, that you can actually work hard enough to take someone's job from them because you were better than them. And that was really when my confidence started to grow in the game of football. And then my senior year, John Roan and Dean Buttress came in with Marty and Steve Alamillo, and it brought a whole new perspective to the game and how you prepare for it, how you get strong in the weight room. I can't tell you how many times John Roan made me throw up. I learned very early on that I should never eat within a 3-hour period of going near a weight room with John Roan because it was wasted food, basically. But he taught me how to be dedicated in the weight room. And compared to kids today, we had 15, 20 kids that benched 300 pounds back then. We learned how to be strong in the weight room, and then we came in that year, and record-wise, it wasn't the best year ever, but man, did I learn to love these guys. I truly loved these guys. They were like, I wanted to be them. And then that season was over. I had gotten lots of accolades. I made all-league. I got to be in an all-star game. And it came down to about near graduation time. And a lot of the junior colleges in the area were looking at me to go play at their schools. And everybody wanted me to be a pulling guard. And I really, even though my senior year I played all offense, and I don't know if I ever told them I couldn't stand it. Life is where defense lies. And I wanted to play defense. And one day during graduation rehearsals, John Roan told me the coaches at Glendale College want you to play defense. Sold. I was there. Okay? And my life as a back began. But realistically, in high school, it was more than just football. It was the friends that I made. I made friends with guys like Jim Johnson and his wife that are here today, Dyson Hamner, who was inducted in the Burbank Hall of Fame last year, and Craig Hunter. And a lot of these guys that I'm friends with today really helped mold who I am today. Another great friend of mine, Dave Hammer, we were like two peas in a pod. causing trouble just about everywhere we could. But really, those friendships that we've held today are really, really important. The next year I went to Glendale College, and I went there and I did get to play defense. And I just saw John Scudo and Jim Satoris and that first year, and I had another great coach that year named Richie Lawson, was my first D-line coach. And it was a family that I didn't even know existed. It was one of the best places. That's why today Jim talked about it. If you played at Glendale College, you were a family member. It was once a vac, always a vac. And then after that I went to San Jose State. Didn't have quite the success there as I did at Glendale College. And then when I came home, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. Coaching and teaching was not even an option. I looked around for a bunch of jobs, and many of you will know my first real job here after college was I became a bartender at Bobby McGee's. Many of you, I punished badly there and came to visit me. And that's when I saw Rich Lawson, my first D-line coach. He was coaching at Chaminade High School. And he said, man, if you're not doing anything, we'll work around your schedule, come there and become a coach. And I became the D-line coach there. And he spoiled me right out of the gate. We went to a CIF championship. We didn't win it, but I thought, man, it doesn't get any better than this. Coaching great high school players and becoming, a coach. I loved it. I was hooked. We got voted to coach into an all-star game that year, and John Scudo had come out to look at some of the all-star players, and he said, hey, Spielbuehler's leaving, we need a D-line coach. You want to be the D-line coach? And I thought he was kidding. I didn't think that was possible. And I said, kind of looked over at Rich and make sure he wasn't looking, and I said, I'm in. I got to go be a coach with Jim Satoris and John Scudo, and that year they brought John Rome back to coach on the staff, and we won a championship. We went undefeated in the league, and it was something that I could never, that first year in '88, winning a championship at Glendale where I played. Now I'm coaching with my heroes. Was just something that I wanted. If I ever became a coach, I wanted to emulate myself after those guys because of the job that they did. At the time, I was putting myself through school while bartending and coaching and sleeping, living like a vampire and sleeping no hours. And then finally, a job opportunity at Burroughs arose with a guy named Gary Bernardi. He's coaching in Colorado now. And he was looking for a guy to come in, and I just had gotten my emergency credential and I took the job. Mike Riley was one of the players on that team. He's now the head coach at John Burroughs High School. And then the following year, Robert Dos Remedios was the head coach. And we had coached together at Glendale College. He'd come there after Cal. And we had some great time. Well, I used to lead the D-line meetings. Used to go watch the O-line meetings with Rome and those. Some of the best comedy. You can't even, comedy store meeting, you can't even see the stuff that went on in there. But when Dos brought me on, he let me be the defensive coordinator. It was the first time I got to coordinate defense. And I really loved that role. But Dos taught me a lot more about what it takes to take little, slow guys and get them to compete at a high level. He taught me how to condition them, how they're able to push through more than they think they can do, and that you just got to get them when they need to be in the weight room. And I've taken his philosophies, and he's gone through the roof in terms of his knowledge of strength and conditioning compared to what I know. But I've taken that fundamentals of what he taught me, and we've applied it up to this point. So I've always tried to take the great things that I've seen from coaches and tried to emulate that and tried to make that my mantra of being a great coach. Players first, treating them like human beings. Playing is secondary. And that is, I try to make that clear to the kids. They need to know what their role is, just like any of us in any job. And they need to know that it's not always about playing, it's about what you learn here. And so from there, when Robert left and I became the head coach, I wanted to put that in. I was scared to death. I'd never been a head coach. I only knew what I saw Robert do because we worked so closely together. I barely knew how to order, practice pants, and how to deal with parents. Coach Garrison will tell you there's so many times I was in his office ready to freak out, and he said, if you're going to be a head coach, you got to have leather on your back. You got to be able to let the stuff roll off. And I learned quickly that we had an open door policy, but this is the way we did things, and if you didn't like it, there's a lot of other schools around. But I think people really realized what our goal was. Like I said, at Burroughs football, we were never the biggest or the fastest, but we were always tough and well coached. And very rarely did we get beat because we were not prepared. I brought a letter here I just had to read. This was from the CB coaches after I retired back in December. And I got a lot of other letters like this. I just think this is the best. It's from the whole staff. They said, your tenure as head coach will be remembered as the era that you made Burroughs football one of the premier programs in the area. Okay, here we go. Your teams were always marked by hard hitting, fair play, clean, well organized, well disciplined, and marvelously coached. It's always been an honor for us to compete against your teams, and we sure had to compete against each other. I love this letter. Back to business. Sure, I'm way over. Okay, I've had some great players. Too many to be too named at this school. I've had some great coaches on my staff. Mike Riley, Adam Freeman, Glenn Ebergott, Ottigo. I've had Earl Hollenshed, Dylan Washhouse, Kenny Knoop, Jay Martin, C. Keith Recchia, Jose Calzadilla, Art Inez, and the camaraderie that we had is why we've been successful. I also, you can't do this without the counselors and all the principals that supported this program through the years, even the teachers that worked with me on getting the kid, eligible. The players that have come through here and told me that they survived Fallujah or places like that because of what we taught them. I had a player, Alan West, guy works on Wall Street. One day, in the middle of the night, he got on Facebook and said, "I totally get it now." Same with Chad Kaiser, a kid I coached going to college, told me the same thing. But realistically, it comes down to the support from my mom, my family, my sister, my brother, and of course, I'm not going to say too much about my wife because I would not make it through, and I'm already getting hurry-ups. Okay, but she has really been the cornerstone of everything. Being allow me to do what I do. Things real quick. It's more about the kids that we've coached than the winning and losing. But there's a couple things that I want to go over. FYIs, facts, information. Since I've been head coach, we have in the top 10s, we have broken 231 school records. Many of our players have gone on to great jobs. Some continue to play football in JC's universities. One even made the NFL, Evan Britton. And since joining the Pacific League in 2006 to 2015, we were 54-16. That is an 80% win record. We had 5 championships in that time, but never was that the goal. Building relationships and preparing young people for the future was our mission. I was head coach for 202 games. The next closest was Bob Donovan at 182. I have coached in a total of 249 games here. Tonight will be 250. To all my staffs that have influenced over 750 young men and women. We've had females that have played on this team and done great things. Okay, we've sent them in the right direction. Okay, I hope that I've taken the best of the people I admired, that I call friends, that have made me part of who I am. I hope that in the end, my coaches and I are not known for trying to win football games at the cost of students, but that winning is a process that is so much more, okay, which makes tradition and programs great. I hope we have helped our players become good people, fathers, sons, and daughters. And I know that Julie and I have never had children. I hope my mom understand that we have a lot.